Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to our review roundup. This is probably a very infrequent cast we'll get, but essentially what we're doing here is rounding up some of the reviews that we've done in 2019 that we didn't quite get round to doing full podcasts for, and doing a quick, rapid version of each of them, but we're compiling it into one podcast, so you're going to get over 10 games, little review scores, and a little thought of what we think of it and whatnot. But again, as usual, I'm not doing this on my own. I'm here with the current Dimp Digital Gaming Quiz champion and also a team winner 3 times in the Fantasy Gaming League himself. He's also been an MVP. It's Tom Adkins, not Adcock.
The double champ.
The double champion.
How are you doing, mate?
Very good, very good. For those that are listening or have been listening, it's a continuation from my last conversation. They've just listened to 3 parts of previews, and now they're in this, and they think, "Cool, they must be doing them every week." No, we've been here nearly 4. We've been here 4 hours doing it in a bungle, and this is the last part of it. So if it's slapdash, and I've got the beers out now. Didn't fancy another bottle of wine. Only Bud Light, it's fine.
Ah, that's all right.
Won't do any damage. If I stay on more drunk as it goes on, that's what happened. It's been a slog. But, as I mentioned, we're going to talk through games that we didn't actually do a formal kind of review for, but we felt like we wanted to chat about a little bit.
Yep.
14 on the list. My game's up first. It's something we did chat about, to be fair. We did about 40 minutes on this when it first came out. I think you'd played a lot more of this than me when it first came out. I was a bit slow to get going, and I only finished it, mid-January time. So it took me a long, long time to get it through, but it's Obsidian and Microsoft's one of their latest additions to their studio, The Outer Worlds, Xbox Game Pass jobby.
Oh, yeah.
Finished.
One I wouldn't have picked up if it hadn't been for the for the Game Pass jobby. Glad I did play it. Enjoyed it somewhat when I played it. It's not the type of game.
It ain't an Adkins game.
It ain't an Adkins game, no. No, my
ain't an Adcock game either, believe it or not. So they're both Tom A's. A bit in depth for him. He struggles.
Right. No, it's not my type of game normally. I've delved into the Fallout series. I've had a little bash. I like some bits. I didn't like a lot of bits.
Yeah.
I like to dabble, but they're not ones that are they're not for me. But I can see why they are for people. I can see there's a lot of people that like these type of games. And I saw some reviews in that and sort of said that this is a neater package than the Fallout games, because that was almost to their charm a bit. They were a bit of a buggy mess, and
it's people letting it off the hook, really. Not
sure.
But, when people say, "Oh, it's the charm," it's like, well, you're letting off the hook for something.
Yeah.
That Hitler, he was charming. Was he? Was he charming? Was he? Is that what it was? Yeah, great with words, but obviously not a very good human. That's people try and get away with it by saying charm.
But that's the thing with this game. It is always going to get put in with Fallout, isn't it? It's going to be a Fallout comparison. I've got to say, what I played, I did think it was very Fallout.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree or expand upon them feelings?
No, yeah. I mean, it kind of plugs that gap from what we've had in Fallout 4. We haven't had a new Elder Scrolls game. We've had Fallout 76 that no one likes.
Yeah.
Well, some people like it.
Seems like they're doing some good things with it now.
Well,
years down the line,
they started building up a bit of rapport with their audience, and then they come out of this. Oh, we're releasing this Fallout 76 premium monthly payment jobby where you can get private servers and stuff. Everyone went, hang on a minute, the base game ain't done, and that's been fucking churned out. So I think they've blown it again in that space. But Outer Worlds, completely offline, single player experience, and yeah, it really does fill that gap. Obsidian had done the Fallout New Vegas game, which was kind of like the second of the new Fallout games that popped out. Buggy as fuck.
Quite a cult loving behind this
Oh
one.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
A lot of big Fallout fans that you talk about.
Yeah.
This will be their favourite one of the bunch.
It's because they talk about the story and they talk about your freedom to make decisions, and I think that carries through in the Outer Worlds. And not only that, the one thing I think we mentioned in our last chat about this last year was we were both surprised that it wasn't a buggy mess.
Right,
It felt like a it felt like a finished article and a finished game, which I was not expecting. I was expecting to encounter bugs and quests, and I had no problems with this game technically at all.
No.
I had no crashes. I had no bugged quests. I had no companions getting stuck. All this stuff that I'd accepted. Like I said, I was charming. I'd done that. Let him off the hook, Jobby. And I didn't need to let anything off the hook here because the Outer Worlds actually was a finished product that was polished. Didn't have these problems.
No.
And that's really what kind of stood out the most. And I liked the setting. Like we've talked about Fallout and how it's like a grimy, bit of a grey-brown shithole. Outer Worlds is colourful. There's rather than having just one map that's the same tone all the way through, they have probably like maybe a dozen or so locations you can travel to that vary in size. Some are quite big, some are quite small, but they all have their own unique feel to them. Some don't have a lot to do, some have a huge amount to do. And I kind of like that change of pace. It didn't have to be this big open world where you're off exploring, finding stuff. It was, it's go into a little hub world and see what we can discover this way, meet all the people that are in there. And story-wise, they've done a good job. Choices-wise, I think that's one of the great things about the game was the dialogue choices. It felt like you were having a conversation with them. Okay, your character's not voiced, but you had a lot more options and you knew what you was going to say specifically, and the other character would react in that way. There were some conversations that I had where, because I was rude to them, it kind of it shut off me finding out any information from them. They were like, "No, don't talk to me like that," and binned me off. And I was like, "Oh, I was only fucking about," but that's what I enjoyed. And then you've got things like the way the story pans out in terms of the choices you make. They do a good job of. It feels like you've made an impact on this world, I guess.
Yeah, I remember that we spoke about it before our previous chat about the fact that you could sort of kill anyone in the game, and that wouldn't just reset you back before that. That would stop that point in the story, and then it would sort of alternate into. It would just make it part of your story. Yeah, I was amazed by that. I thought that was incredibly good.
Yeah, I think there's I think you say there's one NPC you can't kill. And the rest are all killable.
That is.
It's true. I did it.
I
didn't kill everyone, but I killed people that I thought, I'm going to fuck with the game here.
Yeah.
Nope. It finds a way out, and I was like, very impressed. They thought of a lot of things here, and impressive in that sense. As always with these type of games, I felt the combat was probably the weakest part. It was It's serviceable, but it's not engaging. It feels a bit sloppy and loose. And
I know I had issues with their stealth mechanics in the game as well.
I don't know, people. Dishonored seemed like the only ones that did it all right.
Yeah,
I feel like they let you off the hook a bit too much, but I'd rather have that than the two like to put up with in this. So I didn't bother stealthing in the end. I was like, this ain't worth it. But for a Game Pass game, excellent.
Yeah,
and really a good sign for Obsidian and Microsoft. If they another quality game like this, I don't think many people will be complaining.
Do you think Bethesda take a note from this and rather than going for these these big open world, expansive world, go for this tighter, neater package and just focus on the polish, what they clearly lack from?
I think they'll create, if they went down this route, they'd create a more segregated world, and it would still be as buggy as it was. Honestly, I just think there's just something inherently wrong there.
Yeah. So
perhaps they should, but I feel like the game would be worse for them because they would create a buggy version of this. And I was just surprised. I was surprised at the amount of polish. I was surprised at how clean it was, and it was an interesting story. The only main criticism I kind of had to stop it from going to like top tier was ultimately there's kind of like two paths you can take, like for the main quest.
Right.
I would have liked a little bit more freedom in that area, like I felt like I had with Fallout New Vegas, but the amount of side quests that pop up where it gives you agency to decide the outcome of stories is excellent. And you can be a cock, you can be funny, you can be a goodie, and it'll all fit in this world, and people kind of react as they should do around you. And the companions that you onboard, they have their own sort of mission, sort of mini campaigns that you can do for them. They're worth doing because you find out a lot more about the people that join your ship and come on your crew, and they get little perks, and yeah, like you get to know your crew, and everything you kind of do feels like when the game finishes, you understand your impact that you left on the Outer Worlds, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that's to be commended in a game that could end up with so many loose ends. And the RPG elements are great. The perks are excellent. I'm more of a talking sort of person in these games, so I've ranked up all my persuade and lie and intimidation and things like that. So I didn't have a lot of fights that I didn't have to. I could talk my way out of a lot of stuff, but ultimately, if you wanted to, you could go in there and take heads off.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, it's one I want to go back to. Again, it's not really my sort of game, so.
I did quite a lot of the side quests.
Yeah.
Probably done. I reckon I've done about 80, maybe 90% of them. I think I've done 30 hours.
Oh, was it really?
So it's not a whopper.
No, but it doesn't need to be, I suppose, does it?
You could mainline this and probably shave off 10 hours of that, I reckon.
Right.
I think it's one of those ones where you do as much or as little as you want. It didn't feel like it's not like we've talked about the Odyssey, Assassin's Creed, where that level gating's going on. You ain't got to worry about that here. I think it just scales naturally. So.
No, it's nice, isn't it? No, it's it certainly appeals to me more than the Fallout series. Like you say, the setting, the shore experience, the polishedness, that certainly would get me on board. And I sort of enjoyed what I played, but it's not one of those ones that I've been rushed to get back to. But if I have the chance, I will. And I certainly, the people I spoke to, yourself, Dan Clark, and that, they really enjoyed this game, and because it's their type of game they play, they can't not recommend it.
Exactly.
So with that recommendation, do you have a final score for the bad boy?
I do. So the scoring, I don't know if you've mentioned it.
Oh, cool.
We can now do 0.5s.
That is the new rule in 2020, Dim.
2020. Oh, I mentioned it on the kickoff show, but people didn't listen to that shit. But yeah, so we can go in between. We can do, for example, we could do a 9 or a 9.5. Like, just gives us a bit more agency. And the Outer Worlds will be employing a 0.5 in its score. I'm going to give it a 10.5. No, 8.5.
8.5.
Silver jobber, yeah. I was impressed. It had like I said, it wasn't the combat really where it let it down. It wasn't. It took me so long to play it, which is worrying. That it didn't hook me and keep me hooked like something like Death Stranding did. But looking back, there was enough quality throughout the experience where I enjoyed nearly every hour of what I played. So I think 8.5 is a fair score for that.
Respectable, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cannot complain.
No.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
We've
basically had a review off Biff.
Yeah.
Turns out it was 45 minutes from the end and he didn't finish it. And then literally as soon as we hung up on our game club chat, he come out with, I've just finished it. And I was like, why didn't you just finish it before we spoke? Then we could have done a proper score. So we never got a score for it. We've both played it.
Yeah.
High level thoughts for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. One thing I will say at the top is I was surprised initially that the scores weren't in the 90s.
Yeah.
But then playing it, I kind of feel like I know why it wasn't.
Yeah, I was very hyped for this. I remember.
That's why I got the Steelbook.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. It came. It was very close to Death Stranding, wasn't it? Yeah, it's like it came out the week after, I think, something like that. I remember thinking I was starting to get into a real Star Wars phase. The new film was coming out, and this is all just before my Lego phase. And yeah, I remember this coming up, and then, as I've been saying for the whole year, I've really wanted to get into this Sekiro, whatever it's bloody called.
Yeah.
And this looked like a baby's version of it. The combat. There was a Star Wars game that's coming out. That you play as a Jedi, and it's got this fucking Souls-like Sekiro combat where you rely on your parrying and your dodging and that. And I thought, oh, that sounds fucking pucker. Then we started to see some trailers and that, and I thought, blimey, this really does look fucking epic.
Respawn,
the sort of pedigree, they're churning out fucking Titanfall.
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Apex.
Apex, yeah, they've done 3 absolute gems. First Titanfall was good. I wouldn't say a gem, but but no, real nice. Yeah, 3 games they've done that are pretty good. So yeah, I remember the first trailer came out and there was concern, wasn't there? I think it was like the way the guy played it. He just looked awful. And
yeah, and another thing, and this is, I think, unfortunately, I turned off the recording when I was chatting with Biff afterwards, his review, and one of the criticisms he had, he went, sometimes it looks like shit, and I went, in what way? He went, those Wookiees look like orangutans.
You would not be wrong there. I think overall it's quite a nice looking game. I think the graphics do hold up well. Some of the environments and that, I remember it was like the first build you get to, and I was like, cool, this is gorgeous. But yeah, when them Wookiees turn up, you do sort of look at it and think, what the fuck is that monstrosity? But no, overall, I thought the combat in this game was sublime. I thought, yeah, it was a real good combat. The level difficulties in it, I thought, were great. You sort of had these different what was it? It was Jedi Master and Grand Master.
There were 4, wasn't there?
There was 4. That's right.
And we went one from the top.
So we felt big boys, and it did get fucking hard in places. I died a lot, but it wasn't so. With Bloodborne and that, you'd do it so much and you'd sort of be scared that you wouldn't get back to where you was. This was more forgiving than that.
Oh yeah.
So you didn't have that fear, but it was a nice sort of like an appetizer towards one of those games. Finishing this, I feel like I would be ready for something like a Sekiro and that. But yeah, no, I thought it was brilliant. I thought the story was good. It was a serviceable Star Wars story. The characters, I think, are what made this game.
Yeah.
Young Cal Kestis, played by, I think his name Cameron something. He played the Joker in the Gotham series.
David Cameron.
But he put a stellar performance in. You got this little droid who became like a star.
Was it BD?
BD1.
BD.
Little name. Fucking lad he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
And he was your sort of like sidekick for the game. He would help you to sort of traverse around the world.
Yeah.
You had puzzles in there. So it was a bit of a Metroidvania.
It's almost like a splice of many different games.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, and it had like Metroidvania, like you've mentioned the Souls games, that was definite influence.
Yeah.
And like light RPG elements for like your force abilities and other bits, and done a good job, I felt, of melding all that together without it falling apart.
That's it. Uncharted elements in there.
Yes.
So leads.
Of course.
Probably one of its worst downfalls of this game, and that is what I found was its traversal, its platforming.
Yeah.
There was a lot of areas in this game where you were sort of sliding down environments. And you have to jump at the last minute to grab onto a bit of rope or jump through a hoop.
Or there's a fucking turning wheel that you got to jump through.
Was it, yeah, and
Good
that
Lord.
is where I died the most, just because my character's animation wouldn't line up with the jump.
Yeah.
It was the worst part of the game for me, and yeah, it took it out of being a real fucking Game of the Year contender. It still was very good and is up there. But yeah, this was definitely the worst part for me. That just the platforming was not as neat and as tight as it could have been.
No, and one of the things I think that I reckon they knew that, because whenever you fell off a platform or something like that happened, it wouldn't kill you instantly.
No.
It'd just take a little bit of health off and kind of reposition you to the start of like the slide or whatever.
Yeah.
So I get the feeling that they kind of knew that it wasn't the best, and rather than punish you severely, like dying and then going back to a checkpoint, at least it put you, nearby so you could just try it again.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. The checkpoint system was quite fun. You could go through a level. You'd lose all your health. You had these little health canisters that you could replenish your health. But if you ran out of them and you were sort of on minimal health, you could go back to one of these meditation zones, reset your health, but that would then reset all the enemies as well.
I like that as a gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
But if you look at the story and the context, how's that working?
Yeah.
He's fucking meditating that long. They've got new guards bred and put out.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's a story, and the thing that amazed me was the story has now been made as canon.
Yeah,
so
Orchestra exists.
He's in that realm.
He's in that realm.
He's in that realm. Was he in the film? He should have been in there.
Wow.
His voice.
That wavy hair that people didn't like.
Yeah, that was a strange decision. You had a bit of customization of the character. That was what annoyed me. They sort of said, "Oh, you can change what he looks like." He had 2 outfits and 14 different colours. It was like
ponchos and
poncho, and that was it. It was different coloured poncho or not at all.
Yeah. I liked the element of like the one thing about the game was it kind of encouraged exploring.
Yes.
I felt like you'd find things if you took your time to go off the beaten path a little bit. You'd always find something, and one of the rewards is that you pick up new lightsaber parts.
Oh yeah.
And I really enjoyed kind of constructing my own custom lightsaber and putting new bits on it. I mean, it made no difference to the stats. It wasn't a stat thing, purely cosmetic. But I enjoyed going back to a station and going, oh, right, what bits have I picked up, and trying to like make a cool looking lightsaber.
Yeah, that was brilliant. There was some good lore in there as well for real fucking hardcore nerds. You get like a sort of an index and a bestiary or whatever they're called when you come across like a new animal, and the sort of the worlds, the planets that you could go to were all Star Wars, Star Wars planets that have been, seen before in certain bits of media and stuff. So yeah, it was a real neat package. I think just apart from the traversal that really stuck it down. The music was on point. You had the classic Star Wars music in there, and it was done well to the story. The story, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but was a sort of standard Star Wars story. But I've got to say, it was the characters ultimately that clicked it all together and made it a nice, neat package that was definitely an enjoyable game. It wasn't too long either. Wasn't games that you're grinding out to sort of try and get to it. You had the potential to carry on and do 100% if you really wanted to. There was collectibles. You could collect like little focus echoes, wasn't it? That was it. He could sort of, part of his Jedi powers, he could like echo. He could listen to I don't know what it was, like a memory type of thing that was left behind by someone, so he could experience what had gone on in that certain place. And it just built upon the lore and stuff. So it was really, you could tell that the people that made it were really true Star Wars fans, and they wanted to be sort of quite true to the lore and that. But I was certainly impressed. I think you was yourself, wasn't you?
Yeah. It come out at a weird time because it was just just after or during Death Stranding, and I was like, oh, good, it'd be good to get away from that Amazon delivery job, and then I didn't. So it's got shelved for a few weeks whilst Death Stranding got the snot kicked out of it. But overall, I was impressed. Like, it had enough sort of unique elements in there that made it a worthwhile game playing through. The big question on everyone's mind is, what's the Adkins official score for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order?
Get the thing, is it? Okay. I'm going to give Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order of an 8.0.
8.0.
So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I've given it an 8.5.
Oh, it's gone 8.5.
Yeah, I quite liked it. There were problems, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed it overall. Next game is an exclusive to me, Hitman 2.
Ooh.
I've played Hitman.
You've hit the Hitman. You've done the season 1.
I've done season 1. Hitman 2, no episodes, just was all there day one.
It out. So they've drip-fed you that first season, you've lapped that up, and they've gone, right, here's the second season, Netflix style.
Yeah, bang. And they've also said if you want to go back and play season 1 with the new gameplay mechanics in season 2, like working mirrors where the enemy can see you in the mirror. So if you try and walk behind them when they're in the mirror looking up, they'll be like, "What the fuck?" They've added all the different gameplay elements they've added to the first season, and you can just play that inside Hitman 2. It's great.
That is impressive. Is it still sort of in an episodic style? Is it just sort of 1, 2, 3, and 4 big environments, and you get
very much so. I think there's 6 maybe overall, and decently sized environments, but all have. The good thing about the Hitman game is that you could just play it and just turn off all the prompts and just try and play it like how you want to. But what I like to do is walk around, listen to what people are saying, and then it will trigger and say, "Oh, you've found out some information that might lead to, an event. Do you want to follow this?" And you put it on, and then it kind of helps you through that stage, saying, "Right, you need to get to here." So then you find your own way to get in there, and then at the end of it, you'll be presented with an opportunity, usually, to uniquely kill the enemy or the target that you've been going after. And Hitman 2, I enjoyed the reboot of the original Hitman. This was just an extension of that, really.
Is that what it is? Is it a reboot of the series? Because the last one I played was Absolution, I believe. It doesn't carry on from that. This is
not really. I mean, you could argue that they're all interlinked, but there's no, other than Diana and Agent 47, they're really the only 2 characters that I know of that are in all the games. So it's kind of like it's almost like James Bond.
Yeah.
So then when you get a new Bond,
yeah.
Do you dismiss all of his old missions? Probably not, but this is just like a new version of him. I'm sure he's done all the stuff that he's done in Absolution, like that's a past of his, but you don't directly have to know anything about that, which is handy. But the weakest part of the game, and it was easily the weakest part of the Hitman reboot, was the story. They do a better job here, but still not as good as what I think it could have been. Like the storytelling's done not through pre-rendered or in-engine cutscenes. It's more through like graphic novel type bits and pieces. So I think because they've gone independent.
Oh yeah, is this the first one since they've gone in?
Yeah, I imagine that's one of the compromises they kind of had to make, was that we can't really afford to be doing it, so they had to do it. IO Interactive had to kind of, take the hit there. But
yeah,
I loved the Hitman original, and the episodic thing I kind of enjoyed, or I thought I would enjoy, but actually in playing it completely detached me from any story. At least on this one, I could just smash through it, and I'd get a good idea of the story. And the little improvements they've made, it's more of a refinement than a change in it, but it does feel like a living and breathing game. They're adding content constantly to it, and there's always the contracts mode, which lets you download player created missions, which are actually quite interesting and good. But definitely the highlight is the actual environments themselves, and then finding more than one way to kill someone. Like the classic one is the one where you go to Miami, and they've shown it in all the previews, and there's a race going on.
Oh yeah.
One of your targets is someone who's part of like one of the millionaires that's sort of doing another tech thing on the site, and then one of your other targets is actually one of the race drivers. And there's tons of ways in which you can kill both, of those, and experimentation is the key, but also letting it handhold you through certain elements I found to be satisfying.
It looks gorgeous as well. I remember seeing the. I can't remember. It might have been in the first game actually, the fashion show or something it was.
Yes.
But yeah, I definitely remember seeing the Formula One thing, and yeah, that would really impress me. Do they still have them elusive target?
Yeah,
things?
they're still lurking.
I always thought that was a really good thing. You had like one chance.
The big one for Hitman 2 was Sean Bean being one.
Oh yeah.
So
the man that dies in everything.
That's it, yeah. And the elusive targets are the time limited things, and if you were to fail the mission and let it save, I think you can quickly turn it off and it won't. But if if I try and kill Sean Bean and miss him, and he goes, that's it, you get one shot at it. So it really ramps up the intensity for those. I don't enjoy them as much because I don't like it being that pressured, but they're certainly a good change of pace if you want to have a go at that.
No, it sounds like a nice little package. Do you prefer having it all at once, or did you quite like the drip thread because you could dip in and out, or...
I think having it all at once is the way forward.
It's the way forward.
Yeah, I think to be honest, with a lot of the games... Even going back to like Telltale stuff, or maybe Life is Strange.
Yep.
Too. Oh my god, that's got to go on the list. Life is Strange 2 is a bit of an exception. I'll explain why later on when we get to that. But the Hitman definitely is better to be played in one go and have the option to do 2 missions at once rather than just one. It encourages you not to, because it's like, oh, you've done it one way, how about you try and do this story? Because actually in each mission there's probably about half a dozen stories, they call them,
right,
where you find out background information about the people that work there, but all they are really is ways to kill the assassination target differently. Because you go through a different part of the environment, you meet different people and get to a fuller picture of actually how that person operates. I think for Hitman 2, I think definitely keeping it or doing this again and going out for a Hitman 3 all in one would be the way forward.
Yeah.
Whether they revert back, I don't know, but I know all I know is that Hitman 3 is on the radar because I've enjoyed this new reimagining of Hitman.
More of the same.
More the same, please.
Yeah. So, what's your official grading for Hitman Season 2? Is it season?
Yeah. Well, just Hitman 2, I think.
Oh, was it Hitman 2? Is it?
We ain't gonna worry too much about that. Well, he's been known as the parrot, so he's going for another 8.5. Silver Choppy.
Oh, Silver Choppy again.
Yeah. The reason why that was is because I look at Hitman, the original reboot, and I gave it 8 out of 10, and this is just that little step up.
Yeah.
So I felt like it deserved the 0.5 in that sense, and I enjoyed it just as much, if not more.
Yeah.
So Hitman 2, great little game if you've enjoyed that series. Now, Kins, it's been for you what I would call the Borderlands year.
Oh.
We've seen PlayStation stats where it's 2 out of the top 3 games.
It's a real big drubbing.
And it culminated with Borderlands 3.
It did. That was the winner.
Co-op or single player? How'd you play it?
I played this as a co-op.
You played it as a co-op?
With Piper himself. Nah, I didn't play with Piper.
Bit quick for him.
Cool, imagine that, all 3 games, just me and him, the comedy brothers. So went through 2. I played 1 on my own, then went through 2 pre-sequel, and then 3 all as a co-op apart from 1. 1 solo, 2 pre-sequel, and then day release got 3.
Yeah.
I don't think I bought any of the others on release. No, I did. I was late.
You stuck into 3. I remember you earmarking it and saying that's it.
Yeah.
Made a play to get all the older ones done.
Yeah.
And before we knew it, he was knees deep or balls deep into Borderlands 3.
Was.
As a co-op.
As a co-op, although it didn't end as a co-op.
Oh.
So yeah, it kind of fizzled out just because a lot of these type of games it does. But yeah, so it started off from me and my friends Dan Clark and Matthew Basola, as you may have heard me talk about previously. Yeah, we all decided to play it on PlayStation, which probably wouldn't have been my console of choice for the Borderlands series. I probably would have gone Xbox if it was solo. But as
when these multiplayer games pop up, you ain't get a choice, do you?
That's right. No, and I thought it's this type of game. I played the first one solo. It's seldom enjoyed it, but these games are definitely built for co-op. You know, like Destiny. You can play them solo, but you're not getting the full experience, I don't think, unless you're playing it with friends. Although saying that, you don't really hear the story much. So. but yeah, no, I really did enjoy elements of 3. The story was probably the weakest part,
Right.
I'd say. Based on its characters, I think we got very spoiled in 2 with characters like Handsome Jack. He's a sort of very iconic character.
I couldn't hear off him because Hall was babbling.
No.
I know. Yeah, you definitely. I knew he was charismatic and an interesting character to listen to when I could.
Yeah.
Bloody Hall waffling.
Yeah, and that is what downside to this game. This game, you can tell that it is sort of built for co-op. But yeah, that's how they decide to tell you the lore and the story as you're going through these missions is like a sort of radio transmission.
Yeah,
that's being played, and you've got fucking bazooka guns going off in the background.
Yeah, because if it's not Dan Clark and co waffling, it's the shooting and trying to keep alive. And
Exactly.
You can't understand what people are saying.
So like I say, the story probably was the weakest element. The characters. Although the new hunters were quite good, it was quite a nice mixed variety compared to sort of 2 and the pre-sequel. You had a few characters that sort of lent towards that you could play the game solo a bit more. You sort of had more regenerating health characters that sort of played like healing, so you wouldn't get. I found when playing on my own, I'd find I'd get bogged down quite bad where you wouldn't have the backup shooting because everyone would be focusing on you. Whereas when you're playing as co-op, you sort of, you know, the enemies will focus on them and that will give you the chance to sort of get past them and that. So I found the new sort of, the new Vault Hunters had certain skills and stuff that allowed you to play. So on a few chances when I did play on my own for a couple of missions, I didn't find it too hard to get through. But yeah, again, going back to the characters and that. So this one's based on the antagonists are a couple, like a brother and a sister, called the Calypso twins. And
yes,
that's it. And I think Gearbox was sort of trying to make a couple of more iconic characters, a bit like Handsome Jack, sort of witty. They were supposed to be like YouTubers, like streaming things. They just came across a bit sort of cliche and not as good as the thing. So yeah, definitely the worst part of the game was the story. The best part, I think, was the gunplay. It's certainly the best Borderlands gunplay. The game, the guns sounded incredible. Every gun had an alternate fire mode on it. So like you'd have like a pistol, normal pistol. You just tap a button and it would switch into like a mini rocket launcher, or you could get like a machine gun with every single element, and you just switch through each element. So because you get enemies with that were like specific enemy types. So you'd have like a robot would be susceptible to like. Shock, that's it, stuff like that. So it worked really well, and there's like ridiculous. I think there was in their promotional art they were saying that it was like over 1 billion guns in the game or something. You believe
that?
Probably not. It's probably just variations, or they've made that up. Oh fucking. What's his name?
Alan's had a fucking few drinks. Put 1 billion on the market, and they went, "That's a lie." Though he went, "Yeah, I won't know.
They won't know.
They won't query it.
They won't remember that." So yeah, a lot of variety in there, but 2 small editions. I know you've cackled at this before. two small editions that were
I'm
made.
only cackling because they've been in other games.
It's in thing that it should have been in fucking pre-sequel, should have been in 2, and it's a mantle. Basically, you could now mantle things, and you could leap over all what they call the obstacles in the environment that you could hide behind. And you could leap up, and it added a bit of verticality to the sort of battlefield as such. And it did completely change. I remember, I think for some reason we went back to 2 one day to play for some DLC, and not being able to do it, it was horrible.
A real stinger,
yeah, just being able to run into a boss room and slide along the floor, then jump and mantle onto something, chuck a grenade in there, and I don't know, there was something. It just felt natural, and it felt a lot better. And then when you got that stripped away from you, you realise how, how more with the times it is, and it was silly that it didn't have it. But yeah, like you say, when you boil it down, there's very few games that don't have those features.
Then there's very few games that have a billion guns that Alan's touting, so how can you... It's apples and oranges people are shouting.
Yeah.
Two things, and then we'll score it.
Yep.
First of all, any network trouble, and then second of all, what about these bosses?
Right, so network trouble didn't have too much. There was one thing that we had to have... I think in the main menu, we had to, every time we logged on, we had to switch on to it sort of defaultly put you in a solo-only mode. So you had to always change to an open network so you could have your friends join you. The annoying...
Like a very Modern Warfare problem I used to have on the 360 that does.
Oh, really?
People going, NAT settings.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, it was a weird thing that it's just sort of defaulted to that. So as soon as you just turn it off, you'd be like, oh, fuck, I've got to change it over. And the worst thing was as well is in 2... you could log on to the game, and then you could see your friends playing it, and you could see what they were doing, and you could just join them.
Yes.
So there'd be a couple of times when my mates were playing it already, they'd already logged on, I'd be late, and rather than just clicking and joining them, I had to wait for them to finish what they were doing so they could invite me, and then I could jump in. It's just a weird change that they'd done.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some new vehicles in the game that were quite good. That you didn't get in the first game. There was like these little, looks like something that would be like Cyberpunk. It was like these vehicles that were just big wheels, and they had sort of handlebars on them. But they made it, and there's a lot of vehicle. You got a bit of vehicle play in number 2 and pre-sequel, but the worlds were the sort of environments and stuff were pretty good, pretty varied. Some good. It was a lot. The graphics in this game. I don't know if it's a new engine. I don't think it is, but just the enhancements made it quite a good looking game. Yeah, it was quite gorgeous. But yeah, the bread and butter of these games, and there was quite a lot of them, was the boss rooms.
Yeah.
So you had, I can't remember exact numbers now, but you had, say there was about 10 to 20 bosses.
Okay.
So yeah, you'd probably
Dark Souls level.
Not. There was a couple that were fucking hard, quite hard. Towards the further you got in, they were fucking harder and hard. And they had like multiple waves of it. So you'd sort of kill it and you think you're done, and then it would sort of come back, and then it'd be another wave, and so you'd be doing these like 3 times, and then in the end you're like fucking sick of it. But not only would you have these big fucking bastards at the end of each level, you also got little sub bosses as well. So it'd be like halfway through the level you'd have to deal with these little sub bosses. So yeah, in total there was sort of like 20 bosses that you had to do. But it's quite cool because they make the bosses their own characters. There was like a character in the game that was voiced by Ice-T, the rapper.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a few little cameos in there. I can't remember exactly.
The big one. Where's Reese gone?
Yeah, Reese is in there. That's the thing. There was
no. What's his name?
Claptrap.
Big gun. Yeah.
He's,
What is it? No Claptrap and no voice actor wise.
And Troy Baker.
Troy Baker.
Yeah, he was Reese. from the Telltale games came over and they decided. I think it was.
Have you played the Telltale
Yes,
games?
I did. Yeah, I played that.
Do they
as well.
mesh in well?
They did. Yeah, they
Those
were really
characters?
good. Yeah, yeah. The characters were really good, but it just took me out of the immersion because the character it completely changed his voice.
Was it even close?
Wasn't even close. Didn't even sound like Troy Baker at all. Claptrap, it still sounded like Claptrap. You could tell when you really listened that they just got someone else.
Yeah.
It was
when you played it backwards and changed the pitch, you could.
It was because the original Claptrap was just like some bloke working in the office. I think like a cleaner
he was
or
doing
something.
it
I don't know. I don't know if he was a cleaner. It's probably like I don't know, some dev or something that was just
doing it for free, basically.
Yeah.
Just to help them out. And then when he wanted to have like the privileges that voice actors get, they went,
nah, it's all right. We'll get a professional in. Fucking hell. But yeah, I got to say, he wasn't as much. But yeah, the Troy Baker one, that was a big one that was a bit of a mess, and it was all to do with something about the voice actors
guild.
Yeah, the what you used to get, a union guild.
Yeah. Well, he's part of that, I guess, and then they obviously weren't playing. The thing about that is that it's annoying not to get him in, but we've played several games where we thought it was Troy Baker.
Yeah.
We talk about dying on this podcast, and we thought Crane was Troy Baker until the end.
That's very true.
The credits and was like, right, how are they not finding someone that can just sound like him?
Yeah, no, that is true. It's weird, isn't it?
There you go.
But yeah, so yeah, overall I enjoyed it. Like I say, story was a bit weak. There's enough in there for Borderlands 3. I think if you're a fan of that genre, the looter shooter, the loot, I suppose I haven't spoke about that. That was very impressive. It's very much.
Please.
What's the word? Very. When they give you stuff more rewarding, you got got more legendaries. Like pretty much when I say sort of 10 hours into the game, I was pretty much picking up legendary after legendary. You know, like they were very rare in the.
Did you have to keep changing weapons to keep up with the level, basically? Could you up level existing guns, or did you have to just keep changing them out and get something new?
Recall being able to up the level. That's the thing. So that was one thing, that sort of annoyed me with these games. You can't, especially something like Destiny as well. You can't.
You find a beautiful fucker, didn't you?
Yeah, you find a lovely gun. You think this is excellent. I love this assault rifle. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh fucking hell! I'm under leveled now. And I've got this fucking pulse rifle.
Yeah. Once you've got it in exotic, you could like. I remember there was a way you could like upgrade it through shards and stuff like that, but it weren't straightforward. But yeah. Oh well. I mean, I suppose the thing with Borderlands is you've got Alan touting a billion guns.
Exactly.
He wants you to play with at least 500,000 guns.
Exactly. So you are constantly churning them out. But it was an enjoyable experience. Like I say, brilliant in co-op. Yeah, towards the end, our schedules got a bit out the way on, and then people were playing missions without others, and I ended up finishing the last sort of 3 missions on me, Todd.
The main campaign?
Yeah, main campaign, because they'd already finished it, and I'd sort of...
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I think it all got a bit hickledy-pickledy, and they'd already done it, and then they went on holiday, so I was like, I'll just do it on me, Todd. But, it's difficult with that sort of game to... Because it was quite a long one as well, I remember.
Cool. You put in what?
50 hours. 59, I think it's
59 hours it's claiming on that PlayStation 2019 stat.
So, it was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. So, and especially doing that in sessions when 2 other people, when you got to make sure. So, he was playing most nights. And, like I say, we'd already gone through 1 and 2, or 2 and prequel, sorry. So, certainly by the end of this, I had my Borderlands worth. But yeah, like I say, story not so good, characters ain't great, but the gameplay and the gorgeousness of it, and that was certainly is the best Borderlands in terms of combat and customability. Therefore, I'm going to give Borderlands 3 official grading of a 7.5.
7.5, Joe. I was expecting an 8, but this 0.5 I feel like is now it's what we've been waiting for years.
Yeah, I
It gives
think
you the opportunity not to punish it. But
No, that's right. I think had the characters been more memorable and likable, it might have boosted that up to an 8 because it's quite forgettable. But yeah, it was still a decent game, and I'd recommend it. I don't go in there with high expectations of polishment. And that's one thing I didn't even explain. Another reason why it's a 7.5 is the fucking performance was absolutely abysmal.
Oh yeah,
PlayStation 4 specifically.
did it get better as it went on?
No, they patched it and told us they had, and it was worse. I haven't played it since. I think there's been a few patches because they've just released some new DLC, which they have now gone back to fucking what's his name, Handsome Jack. They've realised that they ain't gonna fucking stop milking that cash cow, so they've just released a fucking Handsome Jack DLC. You're playing this casino or something, I don't know, but yeah. Like I say, the last time I played it, it was fucking abysmal and throughout. So much so that we played it on a 60 FPS mode, but it was so poor. It was probably about 40 maximum, but you couldn't play it. The 30 was so unstable. It was like the 30 was about 15. It wasn't stable at all. Yeah. So it was so poor in performance. Visuals were fine, but yeah, just that frame rate. And when you've got this fast-paced action shooter, you can't be dealing with poor frame rates. Just give me, if it's going to be stuttered, give me a perfect 30. I don't care. But when you can produce a decent 30, like I say, it's been out for quite a few months now. I saw it today, actually. I think 20 quid on something. £20, UK pounds, if you want to get it. But it may have been patched.
Do you want to go for it again with me?
I'll do it again. Fuck it. We'll go for all three.
Let's do Monster Hunter.
Cool, another fucking 120 hours. But yeah, beware of that frame rate. They could have fixed it, I don't know, but it was fucking diabolical, and that's what's getting a 7.5 from me.
Fair enough. That's Borderlands 3 done. One of the best sellers, I reckon, throughout the year.
Yeah, I think it did sell well, didn't it?
Yeah.